Hello, everyone, and welcome to the StarCityGames.com Season 2 Invitational Final Round between Evan Whitehouse on your left, Andrew Jessup on your right. It's Dredge, it's Ironworks, and it's brought to you by the wonderful people over at Ultimate Guard and Twitch, among many others. Evan is working on a mulligan to 5 right now, unfortunately for him, though he is playing a deck that does mulligan pretty well. For Andrew Jessup, he is on 7 cards, waiting patiently. Number 3, number 8 overall seeds here in our tournament. Evan just dispatching Ironworks last round in the hands of Austin Collins. Looking to do so again, but kicking things off in the finals. Rough start, mulligan to 5. Should be a fun matchup.
Normally you would think mulligan to 5 is a pretty big deal. When you come to think about formats like Standard, you know, every piece of resource matters. Every extra card in your hand could translate into a land. Trading back and forth, you know, you start to actually run out of physical cards to interact with your opponent in some way. Dredge doesn't really have that problem. They use the graveyard like extra cards in hand. They have so many freebie type effects that come from dredging through stuff, milling stuff with the shriek horns or what have you, that they can recoup, you know, virtual card advantage or even actual card advantage very quickly. All it takes is a single Cathartic Reunion and a Dredger, and that Stinkweed Imp turns into 5 fresh cards off the top, which could translate into freeing up that entire mulligan sequence completely.
Well, let's do it. We're going to start things off with a Faithless Looting off of a Gemstone Mine. Mining counters down to 2. 2 cards coming as well, and 2 cards will, of course, be placed into the graveyard here for Evan Whitehouse as we're kicking off our finals here of our Season 2 Invitational at the Berglund Center in Roanoke, Virginia. We are going to put a Stinkweed Imp and a Prize Amalgam into the graveyard. It's a good start here for Evan, even though he is only on 5 cards.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think it's going to come into play, dredging that Stinkweed Imp next turn. He has 2 more lands in hand to eventually flashback the Faithless Looting. This draw looks like it's pretty good, especially for a mulligan to 5.
Andrew Jessup is going to play a Darksteel Citadel into a Chromatic Sphere. Stinkweed Imp will dredge 5 cards. Number 1 is a Stinkweed Imp. 2 is a Mana Confluence. 3 is another copy of Faithless Looting. 4 is a Golgari Thug. And number 5 is a Scalding Tarn. So Whitehouse replaces his draw by dredging 5 cards. Does he have a second land to play and more action? That's the question.
He absolutely has another land to play this turn. The question is, again, does he have a Cathartic Reunion? Does he have another copy of Faithless Looting? How busted is this turn? And if it's just pass, that means Andrew Jessup gets at least one more free turn before he really has to kick things into high gear to beat this dredge deck.
Yeah, for Evan Whitehouse, it's just a Blood Crypt tap, so it's not an ideal draw here. Jessup's not going to play a Mox Opal. He has Metalcraft, given the 3 artifacts, though now he's down to 2. A little bit of green mana floating as he'll draw a card. Perhaps it could be time to stir it up with Ancient Stirrings.
Yeah, here you see him cycling the Chromatic Sphere. That one doesn't trigger on entering the graveyard from play. It triggers on activating for mana. So he is more inclined to pop that one for mana to cast something like Ancient Stirrings, or just to cycle it early on to kind of fix a draw that might not necessarily be very good.
Andrew will go to his 1 of Psi Master Thopterus now. That'll enter the battlefield. Planning to do some pretty busted things with that next turn as Evan is looking to dredge a Stinkweed Imp. So 5 more cards once again will be placed into the graveyard to replace his draw step. Mountain is 1. Prized Amalgam is 2. Narcomoeba is 3. Prized Amalgam is 4.
That's a lot of power.
Faithless Looting is 5. So Narcomoeba is going to enter the battlefield, and that will trigger Prized Amalgams, plural. There will be 3 of them. That'll be joining at the end of the turn.
Yeah, and he's not done yet. He has a 3rd land. He can flashback Faithless Looting from the graveyard. He has at least a Golgari Thug to dredge over that I see right now. And if he's able to hit another dredger off of that, he could go ballistic this turn.
Mountain is the land for the turn. No Bloodghast to return. So we'll bring the Gemstone Mine down to 1 mining counter. And now here is Faithless Looting. That will resolve, so now it's time to dredge Golgari Thug. 1 is a Faithless Looting, 2 is a Stomping Ground, 3 is a Creeping Chill trigger, and 4 is a Bloodstained Mire. You see Evan Whitehouse keeping good track of everything here. And now he'll have to do 1 more drawing of a card, no replacement draw, no dredgers in the graveyard, and now he'll discard 2 from Faithless Looting.
Yeah, this is it's not the best possible start from a dredge deck by any means, but this is a pretty strong opening sequence. Turn 3, draining Andrew Jessup for 3 points of life and applying 10 power to the battlefield. Now, normally this would be a pretty good start for a dredge deck against most opponents. The problem is Andrew Jessup has a Psi Master Thopterus on the other side of the table and a handful of artifacts. If he's able to cast a Karkland Ironworks this turn, he could produce upwards of 5, 6, possibly Infinity Thopters this turn, which would in turn let him draw most of the cards in this deck and go infinite.
For Jessup, he's going to start with the Darksteel Citadel, it appears. Keep in mind that the Mox Opal does not have Metalcraft currently. Cannot imagine that will last very long, given the side that's on the battlefield and what this deck does. Terrarion will bring along itself, along with a Thopter token, which means Metalcraft is now on for the Psy and, of course, the Mox Opal.
Yeah, Evan really needs to find a Conflagrate here in a hurry to take care of the Psy. A lot of his damage output this game is going to come from attacking, and if Andrew Jessup gets to cast 2 or 3 artifacts per turn, he's going to generate enough blockers to stifle most of the pressure that Evan's able to apply.
Terrarion will come down, which means another Thopter will join the fray. Grove of the Burnwillows is the land for the turn, and now Jessup will pass the turn back. That's the setup turn, with the ability to activate Psy if he'd like to, given the mana that's available, and then next turn is the Go Nuts turn, assuming he's found a Krark-Clan Ironworks. So, we're going to head back over to Evan Whitehouse. Evan is going to dredge Stinkweed Imp. 5 cards we placed into the graveyard once again. Here we go with Narcomoeba. That's 1. 2 is a Conflagrate. 3 is a Narcomoeba. 4 is a Stinkweed Imp, and 5 is a Cathartic Reunion. Not a bad dredge there. You mentioned that he needed to find Conflagrate, and it looks like he has, Todd.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has 4 cards in hand, which is the perfect number to take care of the Psy. Although this turn, you know, he could just go for a more explosive start with something like Cathartic Reunion. If he has access to another land in hand, he can actually do Cathartic Reunion plus Conflagrate, but instead of targeting the Psy, he would be short 1 card and have to go towards the Thopters and try to produce extra damage that way.
What's kind of interesting here is that if I have to choose between killing Psy or killing the Thopters, you might want to kill the Thopters just because that slows down the artifact count a little bit for Ironworks, but they're both problems.
Yeah, for sure. I think just cutting off the head of the problem is more important in this spot, but I don't know if either is going to be enough. Andrew Jessup's pretty quick start here with the Psy Master Thopterus. As long as he's able to follow it up with the Krark-Clan Ironworks, I think he should have this game handled pretty easily.
Evan Whitehouse taking a pretty long look at things here about what he wants to do to move forward. Now, of course, he can attack for a lot of damage. That part's actually pretty easy. The Amalgams and maybe the Narcomoeba, but they're going to come into the red zone. Though, conveniently, Psy is a 1-4 against these 3-3s. Not sure if Psy is going to actually want to get into the fray, though, because Jessup's at a pretty healthy life total. He's at 17. He's got some life to work with, and there are your blockers. So, Andrew not valuing these Thopters all that highly from a go-off perspective, but what he will do is he'll block with each, use Psy, sack 2 artifacts, pay a blue and a colorless, draw a card, and take 4 points of damage, falling down to 13. Yeah,
and now Evan's in a tough spot. Do you want to discard your whole hand to kill the Psy Master Thopterus, or do you want to try to hit a bunch of Creeping Chills off the top of the deck, maybe squeak in the last few points of damage via Conflagrate to the Dome?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. You have to imagine that he's trying to do whatever he can to shorten this game. It seems like Jessup's go-off turn is next turn. Again, we're not sure if he has Ironworks in hand just yet. We'll keep our focus here on Evan and what his plans are for the turn. And he's leaning towards Conflagrate here.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Psy is a huge pain in the butt for this dredge deck. A lot of your damage coming from these creatures like Prize Amalgam. And he doesn't have enough raw resources, like with Life from the Loam, to pivot to the complete burn plan to win the game that way.
Well, there's a Conflagrate. Take care of the Psy. We head back over to Andrew Jessup. He's got 2 Terrarions, a Mox Opal, Darksteel Citadel, Grove of the Burnwillows, and an Island. He's tapping 4 mana. This is not good for Evan Whitehouse.
Nope. And with 2 Terrarions, he can generate 4 mana and draw 2 cards pretty easily. He also has Darksteel Citadel, Mox Opal, and he hasn't played a land for the turn yet. So I believe that if anything else, he's going to try to go off. Even if he doesn't actually succeed, he may be able to build up enough cards in hand to prevent himself from dying next turn and have a good chance of winning next turn. But I'm pretty confident he's going to win right now.
And you're going to sacrifice the Mox Opal and the Darksteel Citadel for 4 mana. Next up is a Scrap Trawler. That's the 1-2 punch, folks. I was actually sitting down with Andrew, Danny, and Jim Davis in between rounds, chatting with them. Andrew feeling pretty good about this deck, saying it's completely busted. He's played over 100 matches of Magic Online with it to get prepared for this tournament and future Modern tournaments. He knows all the sequencing. He actually apologized for going off so slowly. I said, dude, you're doing just fine. You're doing just fine.
Yeah.
Because he's never played the deck in real life up until round number 1 of this tournament, but has obviously played it plenty online, knows all of the sequencing, knows the infinite loops, knows all the loops, and is demonstrating all of that right now with Scrap Trawler and Krark-Clan Ironworks. There's Nickel Wellspring. Jessup will draw a card.
Yeah, he has Mind Stone in hand too, so he can do this iteration multiple times, cycling through multiple cards. This might take a minute or two to actually complete the sequence, but you can bet your bottom dollar this game is over.
There'll be a Chromatic Star here from Jessup. Now he's going to return the Mox Opal, draw a card, of course. Next up is the Mox Opal. Tap, add a green, sacrifice it to Ironworks, get 2 more mana. That'll be up to 13 total. 10 of it will be colorless, 3 of it will be green. Sacrifice the Wellspring, go up to 12. Return the star, draw a card. Next up here for Jessup, play the star, down to 11. Up to 13 colorless mana, along with those 3 green that he's waiting to draw Ancient Stirrings for. Get back the Mox, draw a card.
Yeah, if he's able to find a second copy of Scrap Trawler, I think that should be able to produce an infinite loop, as well as a Mirror Retriever. So Ancient Stirring's doing a fine job here of getting the job done quicker.
Yeah, it was funny talking to Andrew where he was basically like, it's annoying that most of the time the things that I'm looking for in the bottom 10 cards of my deck, so I have to keep going through this nonsense to try to get to them. Some very first world problems if I've ever seen them.
Yeah.
And there is, what is that? That's Mind Stone. Thank you.
Yeah, and that starts that cascading effect with the Scrap Trawler, which in turn gets the Chromatic Star or Terrarian back, and then that in turn gets the Mox Opal or Engineer Explosives back.
Chromatic Star coming in, sacrifice in, getting back a Mox. We've seen it so many times here this weekend in the hands of Andrew Jessup. Same thing could be said, of course, for Austin Collins. Came up a little short. It is kind of interesting. Both of these players in Collins and Jessup using Pyotr Grogowski. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. If I don't, I apologize. He wrote a nice guide on how to play this deck and sideboard with it for every matchup except for the mirror.
Yeah, got to keep that 1% to yourself.
And Andrew said, in a way, he was hoping to play against Evan and not Austin because he knows what to do in this matchup. He doesn't really know what to do in the mirror outside of hopefully being faster than the opponent. Wasn't really sure how to sideboard. And Austin and him are playing the same 75. So I imagine Austin saw the same guide, had the same issues. So I guess they both dodged that bullet in a weird way.
Yes, the classic lost the semifinals, so I get to dodge the bullet in the finals.
You know it. Mind Stone going to come down, sacrifice that, draw a card, get back the Chromatic Star. We're going to keep doing this until he finds Spine of Ishah. There is a Scrap Trawler. That's what he was looking for. There's a Mirror Retriever. We are going to infinity and beyond. Andrew Jessup will win game number 1 here over Evan Whitehouse. Ironworks up a game over Dredge.
Just want to give a little golf clap to Andrew Jessup there. He performed basically the entirety of his combo going through about half his deck. It only took about 3.5, 4 minutes.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. No sideboards just yet, folks. We're getting ready here for game number 2. It's pre-sideboarded, and it's a pretty good spot here for Andrew Jessup. When we do have time to go to that sideboard game, we will. But we want to make sure that you join in our Mythic Madness contest. Don't forget that key word, which is the word bird.
The bird is the word.
The bird is
Cedric. Right. The bird is the word.
Thank you. Each round, 1 lucky Twitch viewer will win 2 Gold Rush envelopes. We've only got 2 rounds left. This and in the finals of our Cube Draft, we'll be bringing you here soon. Type !the bird in Twitch chat once to enter. Twitch.tv/SCG Tours, where you're hanging out and watching this. We want to thank you guys for joining us as we are here from super snowy Roanoke, Virginia.
I was really hoping you were going to say from sunny Roanoke,
I almost did, actually.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I almost said sunny.
Yeah.
I almost did.
It ain't. They be clouds.
Got like 7 to 10 inches right now, I think, here.
I know that I don't know how I'm getting home.
Get in that car and go, baby.
How? The snow's all piled up everywhere. How am I supposed to drive on that?
Well, okay. So first thing you're gonna need to clear this. Do you have a snow brush?
No.
All right. So
I have an arm.
Yeah, you're gonna have to use that suit jacket.
No,
that's
used
step 1.
No, this morning I didn't know where I have one somewhere at my house.
Okay.
I don't know where
because
it doesn't snow very often.
It's true.
All right, like maybe 4 times a year or whatever. So I thought I was running late. Instead, I ended up getting here almost an hour earlier than all of my colleagues.
Yep. Thanks. I think.
Yeah. Well, okay. When I said my colleagues, not the directors. The director just in my ear was like, "Hey, what about me?"
See, now the director is offering up a snow brush, so this is all kinds of win for you.
Yeah. Anyway, so I used my arm because I'm not a coward.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, but it was wet.
So you can block a warrior.
Cold.
Nice. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Evan Whitehouse will be on the play here for game number 2 as we're working through the snow. That's all.
I will say this: Andrew Jessup really living up to his Twitter handle here this weekend.
The better Jessup.
The better Jessup,
yes.
one-upping his brother by making the finals. But if he ends up beating Evan Whitehouse, he will also avenge his brother. And for once and for all prove he is the better Jessup.
That's very, very true. All righty, getting ready for G2, folks. Whitehouse will be on the play.
Yeah. Modern's great.
I happen to like Modern quite a bit.
Oh, it's so much fun to watch.
Nick Miller's getting the trophy ready.
Ironworks.
If only there was something we could do about this.
Yeah.
Probably nothing.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
Why would we ban things ever except when they're really, really gross and bad?
It's all right. It's all right. One more tournament of Ironworks dominance. Who could it hurt?
I mean, it should have won the last Invitational. If Aaron Barrich hadn't,
I don't think it shouldn't have. I don't think it should have won.
Listen, Aaron Barrich should hit in general. Infect should not be a deck. When people are playing things like Jeskai Control, Jund, those kinds of decks keep Infect in check. The hyper interactive strategies, but they tend to run over decks like Ironworks, right?
I'm going to disrespectfully disagree with you. Infect is totally fine as a deck, and it's the kind of thing that keeps this in check.
No problem. No, I didn't say it wasn't. Okay.
You said Infect shouldn't be a deck. That's quote unquote.
That's not okay. You're taking me out of context.
I'm taking your words and using them as you said them.
It's not a good deck. It is a metagame deck.
Absolutely. Those are good. Yeah. Those are good to have around. Here's a Dredge. A 5. 1 is a Stinkweed. 2 is a Bloodghast. 3 is an Archamoeba. 4 is a Mountain. And number 5 is a Blood Crypt.
It's a classic in the land of the blind. The Infect guy is king.
Yeah, Tom Ross is king. You're right. You're right. I wonder what Tom's thoughts are on your Infect analysis. Tom, if you're there, shout out.
He didn't do great this weekend, did he?
I think he got 35th. It's not bad.
Yeah, classic.
It's not bad. You're right. He didn't win another Invitational with Infect. You're right. Blood Crypt.
If I'm not mistaken, he hasn't won an Invitational since he was playing Legacy Infect. He's never really done super good with it in Modern, as far as I know.
I'd have to ask the boss.
Yeah, I mean, he might have like 1 or 2 open top 8s out of the, I don't know, every Modern event he's played.
I'd have to ask the boss. I'm not sure.
He's gotten a smallpox win before, I think.
He's top 8. He's top 8.
Top 8.
With the rack.
He also, I think, won with Tron. He beat me in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, he won in Knoxville with Tron a couple of years ago. Bloodghast is back on the battlefield. This is a Life from the Loam, getting back a Mountain of Blood Crypt and a Wooded Foothills. Narcomoeba and Bloodghast are on the battlefield right now. There's something here for Whitehouse to dredge. There's a prized amalgam trigger that will occur as well. So this is a really good start for Evan. Pardon me. Because he's actually got some power on the battlefield to start pressuring Andrew.
Yeah, Evan Whitefield, a really great...
Whitehouse. Why?
No, this is exactly the type of start that Evan Whitehouse needs. It's not super explosive, right? He would have loved to have cast a Cathartic Reunion on this turn, but putting this amount of pressure on the battlefield this quickly, also having a stocked hand via Life from the Loam and a potential Conflagrate down the line, pretty sweet. And he has that Faithless Looting in the yard that he can use next turn.
Mox Opal into Mind Stone, into Sacrifice Chromatic Sphere. Get a green, draw a card. Anything else here for Andrew J?
Well, he better play something, because he has that Mox Opal, and it's currently turned off.
He'll add some mana with the Mind Stone. This is another Mind Stone. Tap that. This is a Sphere. Turns over. We'll see if Evan Whitehouse gets to play one past this. As he'll untap the amalgam, do a little bit of dredging here. Stinkweed M. 5 more cards on the way, folks.
This is oddly not a great setup for Andrew Jessup's Ironworks deck. He has 2 copies of Mind Stone, 1 copy of Chromatic Sphere. None of these cards trigger to draw a card upon entering the battlefield, which means that Andrew cannot sack them for mana and turn them into fresh cards. He would
true.
Much prefer to have Ichor Wellspring or Chromatic Star in this particular situation.
Whitehouse stretches 5 cards, none of them terribly relevant there. Cathartic Reunion, a couple of lands among them. So he'll move on to his first main phase. He can, at the very least, attack for 6 points of damage, but we'll see what else he can get set up here. There's obviously some more dredging to be done if you're rooting for Evan Whitehouse.
Just want to point out, Wild Nakata was banned in this format for a while.
You're just dropping some truth bombs here?
I mean, okay, there was a point in which Kurt Ape was banned in what was effectively Legacy. Okay, it was too good, right? And then there was an article written about why they unbanned Kurt Ape at some point and how they had made this huge mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And then like less than a year later, they're like, hey, you know what? This new format, modern, we're gonna ban Wild Nacatl because everyone just keeps playing it. All the pros just keep wanting to play Wild Nacatl plus negate. That's all they ever want to do. Thanks, Brian Kibler.
We're out here just trying to correct things, man.
And now you put 6 power on the battlefield on turn 2. You're threatening to fireball your opponent and mill over half of your deck in one turn. This is turn 3.
Pretty good turn.
Yeah, it's a great turn.
Faithless Looting, flash back. Bloodgas came back. Didn't do a ton of dredging, just dredged loamed and then took a normal draw step.
It's interesting.
And now we go to Andrew Jessup, who will draw a card. Is it time to put a wrap on this game, Andrew?
He probably has to do it this turn. There's a good chance that Evan Whitehouse finds the win next turn. He has 8 power on the battlefield right now, but if he hits a Conflagrate off of the Dredge 5 from the Stinkweed that combined with the Bloodgas out of the graveyard should be more than enough to close the game.
I'm going to start by activating the Chromatic Sphere. Blue mana. Mox Opal still turned on. Let's go a little bit deeper if we're Andrew Jessup. Let's see what comes next.
I mean, he has the Ironworks. He can cast it. The problem is he's not sacrificing these artifacts like Mindstone for any real advantage. They're just turning into mana without cycling into fresh cards. So he needs to have a good hand otherwise.
Here's Stirrings. Still got that blue mana floating. Still hasn't played a land yet this turn either, has Andrew Jessup. So he'll take a look at the top 5 cards. We'll see which one he wants to take with him. Inventor's Fair among the cards in hand right now for Andrew Jessup, by the way. Taking a long look at it this time is Andrew.
Yeah, this is the pivotal turn of the game. If he's unable to piece together either like a Psy Master Thopterus plus a couple artifacts or a defensive Engineer Explosives or a combo kill with Ironworks, chances are that he's not going to have another turn after this one.
Engineer Explosives is the addition. That's what he's taking. And now he might be iron working. It looks like he's going to use this blue mana, maybe. A little unsure. Okay.
He's trying to keep that Inventor's Fair on untapped for right now so that he can potentially sacrifice it to tutor up a Scrap Trawler and go off. With the Engineer Explosives in hand, I think he has enough to do it. The question is, how long can he keep this going?
There's another Mox. This is an Engineer Explosives for 0. Jessup is going to sacrifice the Engineer Explosives for mana and activate the Inventor's Fair. So it'll be either Ichor Wellspring, Scrap Trawler, or Mirror Retriever. And it's going to be Scrap Trawler.
Yeah, so he can float one with the Mox, sacrifice it, play the Trawler, sacrifice Mindstone, which gets back a Chromatic Sphere, which he can then cycle if he needs to draw a card, or he can sacrifice for 2 mana if he's short on mana. That'll allow him to get back the Mox Opal.
There's your Trawler. Sacrifice that there Mindstone, get back your Sphere. He's going to organize the graveyard a little bit. His 1 mana spells, his 0 mana spells, as he has done all weekend long. And get back the Sphere with 2 mana floating. Also has Ichor Wellspring in hand, so he'll go towards
a good one.
Ichor Wellspring first. No mana floating, draw a card. Will he be able to go off from such a low base? As I think he just drew Spine of Issa. He will.
He can float one with Mox here, sacrifice it, play the Chromatic Sphere, crack it to draw a card as opposed to making the mana, and then sacrifice Ichor Wellspring to get it back and draw a card, which in turn gets back the Mox Opal. So I think he's fine on mana. He just needs to piece together a few more things. And I honestly don't know. It looks like he knows of an infinite combo here with Spine of Isha to go off. I don't know what it is. I would love for Matthias, get over here. Can you explain this to me?
Yep.
Because apparently the game's over and I don't know why.
Well, gotta go ahead and get Todd that raise real quick here. You know he's doing 5 shows next year, folks.
6?
He's got
sick. Okay, no, you took one from me.
Did
you take one from me?
He's got 30 plus top 8s, 4 invitational top 8s with a win, and he has no idea what just happened.
I know that. Okay.
Deck should probably be legal. Oh, yeah. You can check this out every Tuesday and Thursday. Versus Live. Starting 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific.
I feel like I'm going to be in the booth from now on. On Versus Live. It's Brad v. Russ. Featuring Todd Anderson. Hey, let's talk about the sideboard.
Let's start with Evan Whitehouse, who's having a heck of a time here. 4 Nature's Claim, 3 Lightning Axe, 2 Damping Spheres, 2 Ancient Grudge, an Assassin's Trophy, a Leyline of the Void, a Conflagrate, and a Dark Blast. Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, in the previous round, Evan against Austin Collins was able to steal 1 of the pre-sideboarded games, and then 2 of the post-sideboard games thanks to the interaction of things like Ancient Grudge and Damping Sphere, just to slow down the Ironworks deck long enough to piece together a win via attacks. Andrew Jessup had 2 pretty solid openers, and in fact, enough to get the job done 2-0. So Evan's going to have a tough time here after sideboard, having to win all 3 post-board games in the finals here at SCGCon Winter. If I'm Dredge, I'm looking at bringing everything that can interact. That means Nature's Claim, that means Damping Sphere, that means Ancient Grudge, Assassin's Trophy, Leyline of the Void. I'm going to be sideboarding out a few of my dredge cards, because normally when you board in these interactive things, you need to cut down on something. Usually it's a little bit here and a little bit there. If I've learned anything from Ross Merriam, is you never cut any full aspect of your dredge deck. You just kind of trim here and there. So it's really up to Evan and his experience with the archetype to figure out what exactly he can afford to let go of in order to have the most amount of interaction while keeping his deck's functionality intact.
For Andrew Jessup, 4 Nature's Claim, 2 Galvanic Blast, 2 Lightning Bolt, 2 Negate, 2 Psymaster Thopterist, a Fire Spout, a Swan Song, and a Tormod's Crypt, everybody. Let's see, V-Dredge, I don't think he really needs much, right? Seems like he's doing pretty well as things currently stand.
Yeah, but games after sideboard get a little bit different. We saw Austin Collins board in Nature's Claims. He had multiples after sideboard, if I'm not mistaken. And that gave him outs to potential Damping Sphere or Leyline of the Void from Evan Whitehouse, but it just wasn't enough. So diluting your deck is potentially a real issue, and Andrew needs to make sure he doesn't overcompensate for those artifacts and enchantments that Evan can be bringing in. Personally, I think I would be leaning on something like 2 or 3 Nature's Claims at the most, and then 2 Psymaster Thopterus and the Tormod's Crypt as my interactive spells. But other than that, you just want to keep it clean. These are 2 combo decks that are just trying to goldfish each other. You want to draw 1 or 2 pieces of interaction. That's about it.
Fair enough. We're going to get ready to go over our schedule here of Season 1 of 2019, but I do have some breaking news that I just found out that I do want to share with everybody here on the broadcast. Now, obviously, it's snowing here and the weather is brutal, but it's actually worse in Cleveland because there's a brownout taking place.
I knew you were going to say
the Panthers have lost to the Cleveland Browns. Everyone stay safe in Cleveland and in Roanoke.
Also because of the Bud Light thing. Isn't there like a...
No, that was just for our first one.
That's not what they said in the commercials.
We changed things.
They are liars.
There's a snowstorm and there's a brownout. Season 1 schedule. Real quick, everybody.
Brownout.
Oh, look at the pretty new graphics. SCG Columbus Team Modern Open taking place January 5th and the 6th. Then we'll go to Worcester for a little Modern action. Quick break for the Ravnica Allegiance pre-release. Then we go to Indy for a Team Constructed Open. We'll go over to Baltimore for a Team Constructed Open. Quick stop in Dallas for some Standard action. Syracuse for Legacy and, of course, the Dinosaur Barbecue. Regional Championships will be taking place March 9th. It'll be Modern. We'll have more information for you about that at go.starcitygames.com/regionals. We have more information. We'll go to Philly for a Modern Open March 16th and 17th. Then we'll go to Cincinnati, for the 23rd and 24th for Team Constructed. Cleveland, where brownouts take place regularly.
Wow, just two places in Ohio? That's weird. I wonder who helped to make the schedule.
I've worked here for 6 years. Okay. April 6th and the 7th.
Aren't we going to Columbus, too? Are we not draining these people dry? Are they not tired of us?
No, they're not. Richmond, the 4th and the 5th. Syracuse.
Let's go to Alabama. Come on.
Yeah.
I can bring them out.
It opened with 30 people. Syracuse, May 18th and the 19th. Louisville, the 25th and the 26th. And then SCGCon featuring the Season 1 Star City Games Invitational, June 7th and the 9th. Did you want to talk about playmats? Because I know I do.
Playmats?
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh. Now take a look at this. This is Botanic Growth. And that is drawn by Victor Adame Minguez, who was in attendance here this weekend signing things for us. That's for our Standard Open and Classic players. For our Modern one, Star Crown Angel by Greg Staples. And for our Legacy Open and Classic players, it is Loftstone Citadel by Adam Paquette. Now, these playmats are available free and exclusive with entry not only in Open and Classics, but Infinite Challenges and sealed spectacular packages. But you might be wondering at home, and you here in the booth, Todd, who is going to be commentating on all of these tournaments?
I'm not wondering. I know.
Oh.
You've already told me.
Oh.
Because I signed the contract.
The answer is you will.
Oh, yeah.
You will,
Well,
Todd.
not for long. Let's
You
be
will.
real.
Myself and Patrick Sullivan, Matthias Hunt and Emma Handy, Brian Gottlieb, Jerry Thompson, Ryan Overturf, and Todd Anderson.
Yeah, and these are going to be our pairs, at least for the first half of 2019. Once Cedric figures out that I am an imposter, I won't have a job anymore. So
We'll
that's
see.
okay.
We'll see how long it
I'll
lasts.
just go back to battling. It's fine.
See if you can figure
See
out
if I can get my 32nd top 8.
see if you can figure out the infinite combo that Andrew just did.
Look, I always concede before they get to that point because I'm bored. Okay? No one ever has the time to explain it to me because I've already fallen asleep.
For Evan Whitehouse, he'll be on the play here for game number 3, looking to get on the board here against Andrew Jessup. Remember, Evan did just beat Ironworks
3-1.
3-1.
It wasn't even a 5-game set. It was
Yeah.
3-1.
So he is capable of coming all the way back here and took care of Austin Collins, who, of course, has top-8 3 invitationals in a row now. He's actually 3 for 3, batting 100% in invitationals, we found out from Nick Miller.
Yeah, that is bananas. When I was 16, I could barely read.
Well, that's yikes.
I mean, the Alabama public school system, are you serious? Look.
Look, I wasn't going to say that, but
But
you're from there, so go
actually,
ahead.
my high school was pretty great. Do you remember the old show 2 Days?
Nope. How's that? I've actually never heard of that show before.
It was like a reality show based on like a high school football team.
No.
It was like the mid 2000s or whatever. But that was Hoover High School.
Was that where you
I
went?
didn't go to that one. No, I was next door at Homewood High School.
Okay.
Roll Homewood.
That's not the thing they say.
It's not.
I was I'm calling you out on everything
It's
right now.
been so long, I don't even remember what our mascot was because
You don't remember your school
I
mascot?
didn't care.
Really?
I also went to multiple high schools, so you know.
All right. Strongsville Mustang right here. That's right.
I don't think we were the Patriots. Yeah, we were the Patriots. That's man, and I hate Brady.
You and Tom Brady, man.
Get out.
Winners win. Evan Whitehouse going to take a mulligan, unfortunately, down to 6. Jessup's keeping his 7. It's actually 5 for Evan. Yikes. Not great.
Well, again, we saw Evans draw in the first game. Mulligan to 5, was able to deploy 10 power on turn 3. It's not shabby. I don't know if it's enough to beat this overpowered Carcon Ironworks combo deck. Brown out.
Always a brown out. Also, the Patriots just lost on the last second play.
Good.
So it's all good.
Good.
It's all good here, folks. Evan going to scry that top card. He's unsure. Where's it going to go, top or bottom?
Sometimes it doesn't matter when you have a fetch land in Modern, which is weird. I kind of wish they would just ban fetch lands because of that. Just because of that one.
I just got a message from Brad Nelson, who I didn't think watched football. Miami Miracle right now, beat the Patriots! Many exclamation points. Good to know, Brad. Thanks, buddy. Good. One of our directors is from New England. Sorry about that whammy.
No one is from New England.
Yes. Sorry about that whammy.
That's not a real place. That's something they made up.
Yep, the Patriots will be in the Super Bowl.
They're from New York.
None of this matters.
Or Boston. I don't know. Just pick a city. You can't have a whole region.
Evan Whitehouse is going to start things off with a Faithless Looting. Gemstone Mine down to 2 mining counters, and we'll see what he discards. There goes Prize Amalgam and Narcomoeba. Neither of those cards have Dredge.
No, the Prize Amalgam does push him towards a little bit of Graveyard Synergy if he's able to pick up some steam in the next few turns, but for right now, that is not the start you want with a Faithless Looting on turn 1 after a mull to 5.
Grove of the Burn Willows in at 2. A Terrarian is where Andrew Jessup starts things for Evan Whitehouse. We'll see what his turn 2 consists of. He's going to tap a Gemstone Mine down to 1 counter. Is it maybe another Faithless Looting? It's actually a Shriekhorn.
Yeah, if he hits a Bloodghast here or a Narcomoeba off of the mill 2, could potentially find some pressure here.
Well, there's an Narcomoeba trigger. That'll trigger the Amalgam. That's not a bad place to start. Next up is a Stomping Ground that'll enter the battlefield tapped. Amalgam will enter the battlefield tapped as well. And we're going to head back over to Andrew Jessup for his second turn of the game. For Andrew, he'll untap the Grove and the Terrarian, and he will draw a card, and we'll see where he goes from here.
Yeah, Whitehouse is fairly low on overall resources, but Dredge, again, uses his graveyard like its hand. That Faithless Looting, not technically in his hand, but still has access to it via flashback. Still doing fine, even though he did mold a 5.
Inventor's Fair is land number 2 here for Jessup. He's going to sacrifice this Terrarian. Terrain will add a little bit of mana here. It looks like it's just going to be 2 green, so it could be time to stir it up, as Darksteel Citadel is the draw.
One of the strengths of Ironworks is that a lot of the cards that interact with the combo, Chromatic Star, Terrarion, things like that, they just naturally cycle. So if you don't have your Card Clan Ironworks early on, it's very easy to find. They're kind of replacing what would normally be like your Serum Visions or Sleight of Hand, but they also just work really well once you cast the card Card Clan Ironworks.
Indeed. Nature's Claim is going to take care of that Shriekhorn, pardon me. That's going to shut off Evan Whitehouse's at least attempts at getting a Dredge engine online. So Evan's going to attack here for 4 and simply pass the turn back. We're going to head back over to Jessup now, who doesn't have a ton going on right now, just the Inventor's Fair and the Grove of the Burnwillow, so it's a much slower start. But he might be getting ready to ramp it on up. Here is a Chromatic Sphere. He'll start by cracking that. He'll get himself a green mana, draw a new card. Next up here for Jessup will be a Darksteel Citadel. He'll tap that, use the green as well. Looks like it might be an Ichor Wellspring, and it is. Trigger, draw a card.
Mox Opal now turned on if he draws 1, thanks to the Darksteel Citadel and the Wellspring. Evan Whitehouse drew Ancient Grudge for the turn, last turn, but no real targets because Andrew is just cycling through all of these artifacts, looking for Ironworks, and looking to piece a combo together before this ragtag group of creatures from Evan Whitehouse close the game out.
And Andrew has so much experience with playing this deck online that he knows that Dredge does have access to Ancient Grudge. Of course, he also has access to Evan's deck list. So here is the Mox. Didn't want to play it naked and get it blown up by a Grudge. The follow-up is another Grove of the Burnwillows.
Evan here actually had a spot where he could have cast Ancient Grudge to kill the Wellspring in response to the Opal, leaving Andrew without enough artifacts for Metalcraft, but that would have been at the cost of his last counter on Gemstone Mine, which would have left him with only 1 mana source moving forward, and Andrew still would have drawn a card off the Wellspring.
Looks like Andrew's now going to activate Adventurous Fair. He's got 3 artifacts, of course, Darksteel Citadel, Mox Opal, and that Ichor Wellspring, so now it's time to go digging through the deck, see what he wants to find. Which artifact will it be? It'll be Card Clan Ironworks. Perhaps you've heard of it. And it might be go time here, folks. Jessup sitting at a pretty healthy 8 at the moment.
It's been the talk of the tournament this weekend, Card Clan Ironworks in the hands of Andrew Jessup, Brian Brown-Duin, as well as Austin Collins, all putting up reasonable finishes. Austin Collins, again, 3rd in a row, Invitational, top 8. Very impressive. Andrew Jessup here up 2-0 in the finals with the archetype.
Andrew Jessup so far throughout these elimination rounds has dropped 1 game. Lost to his pal Gerard Fabiano. That is it. Sweat Marshall Arthur is looking to get the broom out here again. And this could be our final game of the tournament, as he's going to tap that 4 mana, as he's done all weekend long, to deploy, we believe, that Card Clan Ironworks. He's actually given this quite a bit of thought, though. What seemed like it might be easy, he might be second-guessing himself a little bit, but now he'll go for it.
Well, he has this Buried Ruin in hand, and he's trying to figure out a way to play around a potential Ancient Grudge. And I think by kind of slow-rolling or sandbagging this Buried Ruin, he's going to put Evan in a spot where he is highly incentivized to cast this Ancient Grudge here, without knowing that Andrew's going to be able to get back and probably play this Ironworks immediately, even if he does kill it.
Andrew will sacrifice a Darksteel Citadel and a Mox Opal. He's got 4 colorless mana floating. Next up, you see how he separates his graveyard, make sure he knows what he has access to. Oh, weird, a Scrap Trawler.
Yep, and I think at this point he's a little low on artifacts to be able to keep comboing through this Ancient Grudge this turn, but Evan Whitehouse doesn't quite have enough to punch through the last few points of damage next turn. Still only 4 power on the battlefield versus Andrew Jessup's 8 life, and only 1 land to work with.
Jessup is going to sacrifice an Ichor Wellspring in response to the Ancient Grudge on Card Clan Ironworks. It looks like. He may not. He might just say, you know what, I can just go for this next turn. He will have 1 mana. He moved the die up to 3 because he was thinking about sacrificing the Wellspring. So we'll see what he elects to do in response to this Ancient Grudge. This is really Evan's only chance of trying to get back into this thing, is hoping that there's some sort of mistake or things just don't shake out correctly here for Andrew.
I think Andrew could have played a little bit differently here. It looks like he has another Mox Opal in hand, so before he actually played the Scrap Trawler, he could have sacrificed the Mox Opal, played another one, kind of gauged where he was at as far as Whitehouse and his Ancient Grudge is concerned. But again, I will always defer to the pilot of Carclan Ironworks because I don't even know how the interactions work half the time.
Yeah.
I know the interactions, I'm sorry. I don't know the infinite loops because that's something that you need to study when it comes to the deck. You always want to be looking for one of the, I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe there are 4 different loops.
There are quite a few.
Spine of Ishtar added at least one new one that I was unaware of.
Ichor Wellspring will come down here. Down to 3 mana goes Andrew Jessup. Keep in mind, he's got no Ironworks on the battlefield to be able to sacrifice that Ichor Wellspring and do all the degenerate stuff we've seen him do already today. Buried Ruin will now be the land for the turn. Down to 1, returning Ironworks. Now, I don't think he has the ability to deploy.
No, he just wanted to use his mana efficiently, I believe, in order to use that Buried Ruin with the mana floating from the earlier sacrifices. Now he's just setting up for next turn.
It'll be a Mox, a Mirror Retriever, and the ability to block. So he is just setting up for next turn. Evan Whitehouse with just 1 land on the battlefield. We go over to him.
He does have that Ancient Grudge as a point of interaction,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think that Andrew even has to block this turn.
I think that's true. I think he might just be able to take this damage. I think Evan is going to attack. But I don't think he can win the game by not attacking. And you take a look at the options there for blocking. Andrew can block with either Scrap Trawler or Mirror Retriever, or nothing at all.
Yeah, if Andrew has an access to another Scrap Trawler, he is incentivized to block this Prize Amalgam to shrink Evan's clock significantly. He gets to get back an Ichor Wellspring, which is fine. And he still, if he has a land in hand, he still has enough mana to just cast Ironworks next turn. This attack from Evan is vexing me.
Just 1 alongside grudging the Mox. I'm a little surprised not to see the Amalgam come in here.
So it makes some sense if you think about exactly where this game is going. Evan, super low on resources. He's grudging the Mox, so he's trying to keep Andrew off of 4 total mana. The problem is that it's really hard to do that for more than a few turns. This Ironworks deck churns through its deck to find mana sources or combo pieces pretty easily. So what Evan's trying to do here is keep him off of Mox Opal for a turn by attacking with Amalgam. Andrew would have had the option to block with either Mirror Retriever or Scrap Trawler and actually get back one of those Mox Opals, which would have led to Andrew having his 4th mana this turn.
Fair enough. The goal apparently in the short term is to cut him on mana a little bit. That looks like it might be a Mox anyway. Yeah, that's exactly what that is. So Stirrings is done resolving. Next up is a Terrarian. And looks like he'll pass. Now we'll go back over to Whitehouse. Still stuck on that 1 land.
Found a Bloodstained Mire off the top, but he doesn't have access to Conflagrate right now. If he has a Cathartic Reunion in hand, he could potentially discard some Dredgers, maybe hit a 3 Creeping Chills and a very lucky spray, or even 2 in the attack with an Archamoeba would be enough. It's going to be interesting to see what he has this turn. Now, notably, Andrew is still 1 mana short of being able to cast that Carclan Ironworks, not playing a land last turn. Mox Opal in hand revealed from the Ancient Stirrings, but definitely needs to draw that 4th mana source next turn to be able to cast it.
Whitehouse taking a look. Might just be the Narcomoeba again. Actually, okay, he's going to come in with the Amalgam this time, too. And now Jessup's got a decision to make on how he wants to block.
I mean, it just depends on his hand. If he has another Scrap Trawler, I think he can use a Trawler to block the Prized Amalgam. He doesn't Doesn't really want to take that extra 3 damage, I don't think. So I think blocking is in his best interest this turn, but I could be wrong. I feel like he has enough overall food for the Ironworks to go off should he find the mana source. So it really just depends on what's in his hand, on which one he wants to block with, I think.
Yeah, will it be Retriever, will it be Trawler, or will it be nothing at all? That's the decision here for Andrew Jessup, as he's inching himself one step closer.
He has an avenue here to actually cast Ironworks next turn, but it involves a block with either of these artifact creatures and getting back a second copy of Mox Opal to go along with the one in his hand.
Well, looks like he's going to block here with Scrap Trawler.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mirror Retriever's ability able to get back basically any artifact.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, Andrew does have another copy in his hand. So.
Ooh, I like this play. He's going to get back Citadel.
Okay.
That's just another artifact, of course, for Ironworks. Whitehouse with a Bloodstained Mire. Pass the turn back. I liked not playing anything, even if he had something to play, simply because it's worth trying to bluff Nation Grudge, if he has that. There's the Citadel. And there's the Mox. There's the 4 mana. There's the Ironworks.
I think this should be relatively easy at this point. I'm not convinced that Evan has any piece of interaction here. His hand was pretty weak to start with a mold of 5, and outside of that Ancient Grudge, I just don't think he has much of anything going on.
Well, it doesn't hurt that Andrew Jessup also has another copy of Scrap Trawler in hand.
Yep.
So if there's a response here from Evan Whitehouse, now is the time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, here he's just going to start chaining off all of these artifacts, cast Spine of Ishsaw, destroy all of Evan's side of the battlefield, go infinite, draw his deck. Yep. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
He is explaining exactly how he can loop around up and down and go to infinity and beyond. Andrew Jessup is going to win this game and match here over Evan Whitehouse. He is your StarCityGames.com Season 2 Invitational Champion.